Recently, I actually read a comic fully through. It's been a long time, okay? And that comic was Spider-Man Blue. Well, okay, like I read the entirety of Spider-Man Blue, like all of the issues. So, it was good. It was really good. I think, how am I going to explain? So, okay, pretty much, I guess spoilers, but if you haven't read the comics, I go read the comics, I guess. But Green Goblin kills Gwen Stacy, and then this basically takes place, I think, it's a couple years after, I think. Pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But it's basically Peter retelling their love story, pretty much. Like how they met and everything. And what caused them to meet. And it's a really good and like a compelling story. It's also a very sad story. But Peter manages to tie everything back to Gwen. Like, no matter whether or not he's fighting like both vultures, he still finds a way to connect it to like Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy and them kind of fighting over him. But I feel like that's kind of basic storytelling. But also, I feel like you can actually, okay, this is a big thing. This is a thing. Peter has consequences no matter what. Peter doesn't catch a break, okay? There's always something that goes wrong. Whether it's him saving somebody, that results in a negative for Peter. Like if Spider-Man saves somebody, it results in a negative for Peter Parker. If Peter Parker does something, that results in a negative for Spider-Man. And like other than the comics, the only thing that I've seen that actually did it correctly was Spider-Man 2. I mean, okay, TASM did it too, but not as well as Spider-Man 2. Also, I did rewatch Spider-Man 2 like a day or two ago, so yeah. Anyway, so there is a point in the story where, like, there's a lot of points in the story where he basically fucks up and he has to leave because Spider-Man business, and then Gwen kind of like gets pissed because you're ditching your crush, I guess, but yeah, there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of tension. Okay, there's tension with the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, because he supposedly forgot that he was Green Goblin. And they say that he's basically dead, or the Green Goblin's dead. Norman Osborn's alive, but Green Goblin's dead, apparently. And, Norman Osborn hires Kraven the Hunter. There's a lot of shit that goes on in this story. But I think the base of it is, like, he lost the love of his life. He lost someone that, like, was his world, and that he wanted, like, to spend the rest of his life with. And he lost it because he was Spider-Man. Well, indirectly because he was Spider-Man. And I think that weighs on him. And you can see that it weighs on him because of how he talks and how he, like, explains things in his way. I think TASM 2 has this too. I mean, like, it doesn't take place after Gwen, but I'm gonna get a little bit into No Way Home, and only because of something that happens. So there's spoilers for No Way Home in this video too, so there's that. Anyway, Andrew says that after Gwen's death, he, like, pulled his punches. He's pissed off, he stopped pulling his punches. So, like, I can see that, but, like, at the same time, I think it's interesting because I don't think in Spider-Man Blue, at least, I don't think Peter ever fully stopped pulling his punches, even after Gwen's death. Do you know what I mean? I think it was more, I think he accepted it, I guess, faster than TASM's Peter Parker did. But I think it's interesting to compare the two, because on one hand you have a Peter Parker that was broken. I mean, they're both broken, but one of them let that actually get to them and like let it affect his Spider-Man life. And Like, I mean, I can see the questioning, I guess. Like, oh, if someone's willing to actually hurt my friends and family, then I'm not gonna pull my punches on them. But when it comes to the comics, he still pulls his punches. He still does that like, he tries to save everyone still, you know. So I think it's interesting to compare the two, and even the death of Gwen Stacy, like with one of them it happened with Norman Osborn. In the comics it happened with Norman Osborn. In the TASM 2 movie it happened with Harry Osborn. So like Harry and Peter aren't on a great like friendship start type thing in the comic, or at least in Spider-Man Blue. And I mean they're kind of friends but kind of not friends. It's complicated, I guess. And in the movie they're supposedly best friends, but like it's interesting to see the differences between like who killed this person in Peter's life and who took that away from him. I'd imagine if they had continued the TASM series that they would have like dived into that. Like they did a little bit actually after it. Like he was depressed, he couldn't accept it, he was, you know, and they did the same thing in the comic, and it really makes you think. And it like I remember there's a scene in the comic where Flash Thompson gets saved by Spider-Man, and it basically makes him change his whole life perspective. And he's like, I need to do something with my life, and I need to like change something. And also, I feel like I'm like leaning all the way. He's like, I need to change something. I need to do something with my life instead of just sit here and party with people. And so he joins the army, and that was his way. Why do I keep fucking leaning? And he that was his way of like seeing. I'm gonna fucking move back because I keep fucking leaning my head over. That was his way of seeing like what Spider-Man did to him, or like saved him. Jesus. That was his way of like doing his part for the world, I guess. And I find that very interesting. I kind of wish that they would have done something like that for like the MCU versions, but that's a whole nother fucking story. But like even in the TASM series, you don't get to see much of Flash Thompson, but you can tell he looked up to him a lot, and I feel like they may have gone down that route. But there's a line that Flash says like, you're Spider-Man, you have everything, like you're the best person in town. I don't think he says that exactly, but I'm, you know, phrasing here. Like you have everything, like, you know, and it's a nice look on the inside of what Peter thinks, because if you've read any comic or seen any Spider-Man thing, his life isn't the greatest, because he's got to balance two lives. He's got to balance being Spider-Man. He's got to balance being Peter Parker. He's got to really choose his battles, I guess, and like choose his fights. Does he want to like stay at the party and hang out and get to know Gwen Stacy, or does he want to go stop the Vulture? He doesn't want to stop the Vulture, but like that's his responsibility. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think this comic really puts into perspective like why Peter is the way he is, or at least I feel like why he is kind of not out there, you know. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. This is kind of like a compare contrast between Spider-Man Blue and TASM 2, but I think it's really okay. If you know anything about me, if you watch the other channel, you know that scene of Gwen Stacy breaks my heart, like all the time, and it just, to see the aftermath of it, you know, like even if it's not in the TASM movies, to see the aftermath of how that affected Peter, and how that would probably affect anybody if you were put in Peter's situation. But it's a very good thing to explain. Like, it's a good way to get into Peter's mind, you know? And I think that's important whenever you're trying to grow to this character and you're trying to learn more about them and their emotions and who they are as a person. Because you know Peter Parker, and you know if he acts different, then you're going to notice it. But yeah, like, you can definitely tell that this affected him more than Uncle Ben. And people may get pissed at me about that, but it legitimately says it in the fucking comic itself. Like, he says that it would probably that it affected him more than Uncle Ben, and that Uncle Ben would understand, because yeah, and like, that's fucking crazy. Like, because Uncle Ben is the reason why he goes out there, like, why he tries to be the best person he is. He's grown up with the two most best human beings on planet Earth, and they're not perfect, but they teach him what is right and wrong, and that, like, you have a responsibility to do things. But Gwen also taught him things. Gwen taught him how to love. Gwen taught him how to feel for people. She taught him how he could let his guard down when it comes to her. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I wanted to talk about it. I might talk about more comics that I read, because it's been a very long time since I've read a comic book. I think maybe I might do an episode, not an episode, like a video on Doom Patrol. I think that'd be fun, on the Doom Patrol comic, and maybe I might compare and contrast the Doom Patrol show, which is fucking perfection, by the way, to the comic, because I've already read, like, maybe halfway through the Doom Patrol comic, and there's a lot of changes when it comes to the show. But yeah, I think I'm good here. Yeah. I hope you all enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.